MISTBORN, The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson, the first book in the MISTBORN Era 1 trilogy. Let's talk about it. Hey guys, so I'm back with another review. Before I start, I would like to thank you all so much for helping me reach 100 subscribers in my first month on YouTube. That was kind of a background goal in my head that I wanted to get to 100 in a month. And I'm so grateful for each and every one of you for sticking around to see what else happens with this channel and what else we're going to make. And I promise you it's going to be great. I have so much I've already spoken about and so much more I really do want to talk about. So getting into this review, if you have not read MISTBORN and know nothing about it, perfect, you can stay for the majority of this video, but at the end I will have a spoiler section where I talk to you guys, the fans of MISTBORN, and you can hear my thoughts on certain key moments in the story. So what is MISTBORN? What is this story about and where is it taking place? I'll first tell you where it's taking place. So to set the scene, the evil guy has won, basically, and he's taken over this entire world, and it's called the Final Empire. And in this Final Empire, things aren't great. There is literally ash falling from the sky, everything is covered in soot. During the day, it is like a red sun. It's just such a cool image. And at night, in this world, there are mists that come and consume everything, in the sense that you can't see 1 meter in front of you. So we've got this very ominous setting, and I found it really, really cool. For some reason, I wasn't expecting this with MISTBORN. People talking about MISTBORN kind of call it an entry point into fantasy for people, and for some reason I was expecting something a little less dark, but I was very happy with the dark setting. So let me tell you about our two main characters. Our first main character is Vin, and she's a 16-year-old girl in a thieving crew. She's just getting by. She's being treated quite horribly by this crew, but she has a certain ability, she calls it luck, to kind of influence people's minds, and the crew has kind of recognized her as like a good luck charm, and they kind of use and abuse her. Our second main character is Kelsier, and Kelsier is a very well established kind of thief and troublemaker. He was in the hands of the Lord Ruler. When you are in the hands of the Lord Ruler, you get taken to these mines, and once you get taken to these mines, nobody returns. Kelsier has returned from those mines, and he is the only one who has. So these are our two main characters. Essentially, the main plot of this story is Kelsier and his crew recruiting Vin into their operation, and their plan is to overthrow the Lord Ruler and kind of liberate the lower class. I'll mention the class system very briefly. It's quite simple. There are the Scar, and the Scar are like the lower class of society. They work all day just to get their food to work another day. So they just work to live. And we have our noble men and women who oversee the Scar and have their balls and their very upscale lifestyle. And above that you have the Lord Ruler, more or less. There's more detail to it, but that's the gist of it. Now, it seems pretty straightforward at this point, but what really sold me on this book was the magic. Now, I found the magic so cool. So far, in every single Brandon Sanderson book I've read, I've been so enthralled by how he does magic systems. If you're new to fantasy or don't know how magic works in these sort of novels, there's two main methods that authors use. There's soft magic, where it's not fully explained to the reader how people are doing magic, and there's hard magic, where you know full well the exact process and things needed for these characters to conduct their magic. And this is a very hard magic system. You know exactly how it works, and he makes sure you do. The basic idea of the magic system in MISTBORN is it all revolves around different types of metals. Certain people in the population have the ability to, when they ingest metal, they get a certain power. Each metal is tied to a different power. For example, steel has a power, gold has a power, and so forth. So all the magic revolves around a push or pull system. You can push or pull the emotions in someone's mind. You can push or pull against or to a metal object. So the way some of these characters move is they carry coins with them, and as they drop the coins, they push off the coins and launch themselves into the air. Then they can pull the coin and like kind of magnetically get it back to themselves. It's kind of like how Thor uses his hammer, but like realized to its full potential and taken in crazy directions. you can totally imagine with swords and fantasy elements, adding sort of like a push and pull magnetism mechanism with the characters. It gets us into some freaking amazing fight scenes that were just so creative and way more gruesome than I expected. Now it's not like George R. R. Martin or gruesome, but it's even like more explicitly gruesome than the Stormlight Archive. Brandon Sanderson's known for like almost like a PG-13 vibe to his books, but people's heads are getting cut off. We're seeing dismembered bodies, but it's quick. It's not dwelled upon, but it was something I noticed. I was like, oh, damn, Sanderson. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go for it. I'm all about it. Yeah, so the magic system leads to some freaking amazing, exciting fight scenes and a really interesting way about how you can manipulate people, getting into their minds and changing their emotions. I won't go into what every metal does. That's for you to discover as you read the book. Brandon Sanderson does a great job of making sure you understand the magic system. As scenes are going on, it's being explained to you in a very smooth way where you understand exactly what's going on and how these characters are harnessing their magic. And it's great to see how different powers play off each other, and your mind just starts creating these scenarios thinking, wow, I wonder how this would interact with that, or how that would interact with this. And the book totally delivers in living out the fantasies that you've just thought of, having just learnt this magic system, and I can just see how this would get crazier and crazier as the books go on. It's probably one of my favorite magic systems so far out of all his books. So moving on to what I really did enjoy about these characters, I found Vin to be a very, very good character. I was very attached from her from the beginning. Of course, you feel so much empathy for her being used and abused in a way in this awful kind of thieving gang. You want her to succeed. You're rooting for her to get to a better situation. And because she's a street urchin, she's very reluctant to trust people. And it's good to see her finally start to meet some good-hearted and good-natured people throughout this story. It's heartwarming to see that journey. As for the rest of the cast of the book, there are some characters you will absolutely hate. There are some you will love, and I'm sure there's some you'll have mixed feelings about. But it's very like a jovial, fun setting. It's like Kelsier and the boys. It's a thieving crew. Everyone's got their own power. Brandon Sanderson compares this book to like a heist, and it's definitely got that vibe where each member of the crew kind of has their speciality, and there's like some witty banter throughout as they're pulling off these crazy moves. Now, I will say some of the dialogue can be a bit like jarring and quippy at points where it doesn't exactly flow. I think Sanderson has become a much better writer since Mistborn. I found Stormlight Archive a much more like polished read, but it by no means like stood out to the point where I was like, oh, rolling my eyes or anything. No way. It was fantastic, but I definitely did notice, having come from Stormlight, that his writing has improved significantly. Now, I'll say it did take me some time to get into this book. The start is like way faster than other long epic Sanderson books, but it did kind of get me a while to grow accustomed to where I was and who are these characters and how's the magic working. You kind of got a lot thrown at you, and it took me, a few days. Mind you, like I have work and things, so it's sometimes hard to come back from work and dive straight into a big fantasy book. It was a slow start for me, I will say. But let me show you. I got up to like this point in the book. This is where I was yesterday. This is where I was up to yesterday. And in one sitting, moving around, of course, I read the entire rest of the book, like 300 pages. I feel like this happens to me with every Sanderson book. Once I get 2/3 or like just over halfway through, I cannot contain myself. Once you're kind of established in the world and who these characters are and you kind of understand the journey that's happening, I couldn't find a way to stop reading this book. I was completely enthralled in it. There are many, many twists and turns throughout. The fight scenes are fantastic. They're so creative, and some of the kills are just incredible. You get so invested in what these characters are fighting for and the reason they're doing it, trying to overthrow an oppressive government and leader and to help the lower class who couldn't get behind that, right? So the wins and losses across the book were so impactful, and at many points, I was questioning how are these guys going to pull it off. Brandon Sanderson is not afraid to show loss in this book. It's not just like a clear-cut, okay, the good guys are going to win no matter what. There are definitely moments where I was questioning what was going to happen by the end. We lose characters along the way. There are heart-wrenching moments, and there are incredibly wholesome moments as well. I teared up at some very wholesome moments in this book. I don't know if I'm just a softie, but some of the interactions between some characters were just so lovely and so touching that I found it really impactful as I read it, I'm not afraid to say I did tear up during this read. So I'll say that concludes my non-spoiler review section of this novel. I'd say if you are looking for a great fantasy series to get stuck into, 100% go for it, man. The magic is crazy awesome. The characters go through great growth. They're endearing. They're likable. It's funny. It's entertaining, and it's a mystery as well. You're constantly wanting to know more about how this world works and what's going on behind the scenes. There are incredible creatures, there are incredible ideas. It's a great discussion between class and oppressive government and the mindset of people and mob mentality. It's a great look into all of these things, and I can just see how this series is going to grow and get even better as I go further into it. So if you're on the fence about reading Mistborn, I say go right ahead and do it. If you're looking for a new adult fantasy to get into, that's a very easy and quick, well, I won't say quick read because it's a big book, but I found it to be a quick read. It's an exhilarating journey, and I strongly recommend it to you guys. Once again, I will reiterate, if you have not read Mistborn and are meaning to, please go away now. Watch another one of my videos. I have plenty of them. Please do subscribe if you enjoyed it. But let's move on to spoilers. Hey Mistborn fans, I finally read it. Let's talk about some of the crazy moments in this book. Okay, I'm just going to cut to it. I'm going to cut to it because it's like the main thing. When Kelsier died, oh my god. I'm not over it. I'm not over it. It's only been a day, and I just can't cope. And I knew it was coming. Like, it wasn't spoiled, but it's foreshadowed enough and hinted to enough that I knew it was coming. And when he's one-on-oneing the Inquisitor, and it's like he's lost his wife, he's lost his friends, Hero's dead, they're all dead, and he's like, you want to fight for revenge? Like, let's go. And I was just like, I was like, yeah, let's get him, Kelsier, let's get him. And he beats the Inquisitor in that battle. It's so damn awesome, the way he's got all the metallic objects, throwing knives and flying through. It was so good. And that moment where the Lord Ruler rocks up. Oh, I can't say it. I was going to do a Game of Thrones Season 8 comparison, but if you know when the Night King rocks up in that episode, you know which comparison I'm talking to. But characters run up and throw the spears through the Lord Ruler. Nothing for him. And when he just like slaps Kelsier so hard that like his bloody face comes off and he gets skewered into the ground. Oh my god. It was brutal. Like, dude, Sanderson, I wasn't ready for this brutality. And I love the idea that Kelsier was kind of building himself up to be this, like, god figure that he knew people would want to, you know, carry on his legacy and make sure this rebellion goes on for years to come. That needed to happen, and he had lost so much that he was ready to go. But his relationship with Vin and, like, how he saw her as a daughter... God, man, like, it just hurts. It just hurts so much. This is one of the hardest deaths I've ever read. Like, I don't know, like, I haven't really watched too much about Mistborn, but I'm guessing everyone loves Kelsier. Like, I could see how he can be a little bit too winky and smiley for some people, but he's so likable. And even if you get beyond that, just the fact that Vin, who has had such a dark life, finally had someone who loved her and was like a father figure, like an adult, and to see him die in such a bad way. Okay. All right, I think I've got it out. I'm sure you guys had a similar struggle. If not, I guess it's just me. That sucked. And that brings me on to Marsh, Kelsey's brother. God, I think Marsh, I don't know how he is in the fan base, but he was kind of in the background for a lot of the book, and I was like, yeah, he's pretty cool, but I really wanted to learn more about him because he had such an energy around him where I felt like there's a dark backstory here. There is way more to this guy than we are understanding. The way that Kelsier wanted to impress his brother and carry on what he had, but Marsh kind of had this bitterness about it. Like, I loved that dynamic between the two characters, and when we were duped about Marsh's death, I was incredibly sad. But when he was back as an Inquisitor, that is such a cool twist, and I can't wait to see what happens with Marsh in the next few books. Like, especially because we got that brief point of view in the other Inquisitor, and seeing that they're kind of like bats and how they have like a sonar vision of the world, just like outlines of people through their allomancy. My God, like, the potential for Marsh is so good, and I feel like a big portion of the next few books will revolve around him, or not necessarily revolve around, but like he will be a big player in the events to come. And overall, with the ending, I'm kind of confused as to where it's going. I have inklings about where it's going next, but it doesn't seem incredibly clear. I know we're going to look for, is it the Well of Ascension or something? That's where they're going for, to find like the 11th metal and what it does, and you know, we'll follow Elend and how he is going to be kind of the leader now. I'm very intrigued to see where it goes next, because I wasn't expecting them to kill the Lord Ruler in the first book for some reason, especially because the last one's called The Hero of Age. I don't know, but there's enough mystery at the end that I'm extremely keen to keep reading on with the series. I will say, like, I'm not gonna lie, I was not really ever looking forward to the ball chapters with Vin. It was cool seeing the kind of political game of the upper class and seeing the disparity between their life and the Scar. But after a few, it, like, they always delivered by the end, but I won't lie that every time they started and she was like going into this ball, I was a bit like, oh, I don't know, there was just maybe a few too many. But yet again, I couldn't think of one to cut out, so it was probably fine, and probably just my reading fatigue setting in. Oh, yeah, I really do want to talk to you guys about one of my favorite characters, and perhaps my favorite character in this book, outside of the main two, is Sazed, or Sazed, but I say Sazed in my head. I'm pretty sure that feels right, but you guys can tell me if Sazed is wrong. But I loved how he's a terrorism and they can keep their memories and store powers, and the way he saves Vin in that last part in the like Lord Ruler's castle or whatever, the way he comes back and how cheery he is and how he like grows his muscles. Dude, that was awesome. I loved him as a character. I loved how he was kind of chaperoning Vin everywhere and being kind of her guide throughout the whole book and saying mistress like a million times. I found him such an enjoyable character. It's like a butler with badass powers. It was cool. And I loved how he stored all these religions and the concept of the Terracemen, how they keep all the history of the world just waiting for the day where the good guys kind of are back. I like the twist that the Lord Ruler was actually the other guy from the journal. I'm curious to see who was actually writing this original journal. I want to see what happened to that character all those years ago. Yeah, it's going to be interesting how the rest of this series takes place. Thanks guys so much for watching. I know the spoiler part was a bit rantish, but I just had to get it out and talk to you fellow Mistborn fans about it. Help me cope with the death of Kelsier. I'm not okay. It hurts too much. My next video will be on Saturday. As some of you probably know, I'm doing a countdown to Rhythm of War, which is the 4th book in the Stormlight Archive. Every Saturday I'm releasing a Stormlight Archive related video. I hope you guys really enjoy those and stick around for more. I hope you're all well, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Thank you for watching.